Ecosystem. In this module, we are going to discuss about what is ecosystem, its types, the components of ecosystem, food chain, food web, the energy flow in an ecosystem, and the different types of ecological pyramids which are found there. So let's get started. What is ecosystem? A group of organisms interconnecting among themselves and with the environment is called ecosystem. The term ecosystem it was coined by A.G. Tansler in the year 1935. It is a self-sustaining, structural and functional unit of biosphere. It is an open system. It depends on the external source of energy, that is, the solar energy, and it includes both the living organisms and the non-living environment. An ecosystem may be as small as a little drop of water and as large as a sea of forest. Within the ecosystem, each living organism has its own life to live and a role to play. The way in which an organism lives its life in an ecosystem is called its ecological niche. It shows how an organism relates to its physical and biological components of its habitat. Types of ecosystem. Ecosystems are classified into many small units to have an idea for its form and function. On the basis of nature, ecosystem may be of two types, as shown in the picture as natural ecosystem and artificial ecosystem. So let's discuss them one by one. First, natural ecosystem. It is a self-regulating ecosystem without any major interference by humans. Here, the organisms freely interact with other components of that environment. This natural ecosystem is further divided into two as terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. First, the terrestrial ecosystem. These refer to the ecosystems which are found on land. They can be classified based on the climate and temperature. These are discussed as grassland ecosystem, forest ecosystem, and desert ecosystem. The second type of natural ecosystem is aquatic ecosystem. As the name suggests, these include the ecosystems which are found within the water bodies. They are the most common type of ecosystems found on earth as well as water. It covers around 75% of the earth's surface. These aquatic ecosystems are further divided into two as freshwater ecosystem and marine ecosystem. The second main type of ecosystem is artificial ecosystem. These artificial ecosystems, it is a man-made and is maintained artificially by a planned manipulation. Some examples of the man-made ecosystems are dam to store water, a piece of agricultural land, a lawn, or a park. Components of ecosystem. From the structural point of view, each ecosystem is formed of two main components, biotic and abiotic. This biotic component is termed as your living component and the abiotic is termed as your non-living components. So let's discuss them one by one. First, biotic component. The biotic components are the different forms of the life present in an ecosystem. Based on the nutritional relationship, thus biotic components are classified or categorized broadly into three types as producers, consumers, and decomposers. So let's discuss these biotic components one by one. The first is the producers. These producers are also termed as autotrophs. Autotroph means auto, it means the self, and the troph, it means the nutrition or nourishing. These producers are also named as the energy transducers. They are the only biotic component of an ecosystem which are capable of trapping the solar energy with the help of simple organic substances. They convert the solar energy into chemical energy in form of food, and they manufacture their own food also. The second biotic component is consumers. So let's discuss about them. The consumers are also called as heterotroph. Here, the hetero, it means others, and troph means nutrition or nourishing. The organisms that are unable to synthesize the food for themselves and they consume the matter which is manufactured by the producers are termed as consumers. These consumers are involved in the utilization of organic food material. They are further categorized into three as shown here: primary, secondary and tertiary. So let's discuss about them. First, the primary consumers. These primary consumers are also called as herbivores or the consumers of first order. These consumers, the primary consumers or the herbivores, they feed only on the plants. That is your producers. Some examples of the herbivores are rabbits, deer, mice, goat, sheep, cattle, horse. The second category of the consumer is carnivores. These carnivores, they eat the flesh of other animals. These are also termed as consumers of the second order. The carnivores that eat the herbivores are called as the primary carnivores or the secondary consumers. For example, fox, snake, frog, and small fishes. Another category, the animals which eat the primary carnivores or the secondary consumers are called as your secondary carnivores or the tertiary consumers. They eat both the primary and the secondary consumers. For example, the lion, tiger, hawks. Another category of the consumers is the omnivores. The animals that eat both plants and animals are termed as your omnivores. For example, dog, bear, and the human beings. One more type of consumers are present in the environment, which are named as scavengers. These are the animals, mostly the birds, which feed on the flesh of the dead animals. For example, vultures, crow, and hyena. The third main category of the biotic components is the decomposers. So let's discuss these decomposers also. The decomposers, which are the microorganisms, mostly the bacteria and the fungi, they break down the complex organic compounds from the dead bodies of the animals, decaying remains of the plants, and the facial matter of the animals into very simpler inorganic substances. These microbes, they absorb some of the decomposed products and they release the other products into the environment. These products are utilized by the plants, that is your producers. The next component is the abiotic components. So let's discuss about these abiotic components, which are the non-living components. The abiotic components of an ecosystem determine the success of the organism through the effects on the structure, life history, physiology, and the behavior of that organism. It includes the non-living things around us, such as air, water, soil. So let's discuss these factors one by one. The first is your air. Air is the mixture of gases that covers the whole earth like a thick blanket, which is known as atmosphere. About 99.3% of the gases that constitutes the atmosphere are nitrogen 78%, oxygen 21%, argon 0.9%, and carbon dioxide 0.03%. The remaining 0.07% gases is a mixture of hydrogen, water, ozone, neon, helium, and other traces of the gases. These gases, they affect the life and play an important role in the ecosystem. For example, the oxygen, which is really essential for the respiration in all the organisms. Ozone layer, it protects the life on the earth from the harmful ultraviolet radiation. The second abiotic component is water, another important and essential component of the ecosystem. All the living bodies, they contain large amount of water and requires it for their survival also. It is also essential for the plant life as it is required for the germination of the seeds, dispersal of the seeds, photosynthesis process. This water it also acts as a habitat for the numerous plants and animals. The next category of the abiotic component is the soil. Soil, it is the uppermost layer of the earth crust and an important part of the land. It is directly or indirectly essential for all the organisms. Soil is the main source of nutrients and water for the plants. It supports the plant life, which in turn provides the food to all the organisms such as microbes, insects, rodents, snakes, etc. The next category of the abiotic components is the sunlight. As we know, sun is the primary and ultimate source of energy for most of the organisms on the earth, directly or indirectly. Plants they require light to complete the photosynthesis, without which the life is impossible. Light it determines the growth and the development of the plants also. The different varieties of the plants they require different amount of light for their growth. The next category of the abiotic component is temperature. Temperature is an important factor which affects the distribution, activity, growth, reproduction and the behavior of the organisms. For example, the flowers of various plants they open during day and close at night. Some fruit trees like peaches, they require a cold period each year to blossom in the spring. The seeds of some plants, they germinate in the spring or summer season. The temperature also affects the distribution of animals in an ecosystem. Many animals can adjust their body temperature according to the surrounding condition. The sixth category of abiotic component is humidity. Humidity is the amount of water vapor present in the air which determines the climatic conditions. The excess of humidity indicates the form of clouds and likelihood of the precipitation, dew or fog. During high humidity, people feel hot inside their houses. Reason of this is the saturation of the atmospheric air with the moisture and reduced evaporation of the body sweat. The last category of the biotic component is wind. Wind is the movement of air on the earth. It can affect life of an ecosystem in various ways, like the wind it disperses the seeds from the various plants, enabling the survival and dispersal of those plant species. The soil erosion is also affected, which results in the reduced vegetation in that particular area. Food chain. The transfer of food energy from one trophic level to another, which means the transfer from the producers through a series of other organisms with repeated eating and being eaten, is termed as food chain, as shown in the picture also. If we talk about the significance of the food chain, this food chain it helps in understanding the feeding relationship and the interaction between the organisms of different species in an ecosystem. It also helps in understanding the mechanism of transfer of food energy and nutrition in an ecosystem. Food web. In nature, the simple food chain occurs rarely, as the same organism may operate at more than one trophic level. Similarly, of higher trophic level, or an organism may feed upon several organisms of lower trophic level. As shown in the picture, it means that in a given ecosystem, the food chain never operate in isolated sequence but are interconnected with each other, forming an interlocking pattern. As shown here, the interconnection of the organisms with each other and the interlocking pattern of all the food chains. This is only termed as your food web. The flow of energy in an ecosystem. The energy is living beings, it remains stored in the form of food energy, which is transferred from one trophic level to another. This is known as energy flow in an ecosystem. So let's discuss some of the characteristics of this food energy. So let's start the characteristics of the energy flow there. The ultimate source of all the energy which is used by the living organism, it is the solar energy, as we know very well. Only 1% of the solar energy that falls on the leaves of the green plants is utilized, which is stored in the form of the food. The autotrophs, by the process of photosynthesis, they convert the radiant energy of the sun into the chemical energy in form of the food energy, which is stored in the plants. During the energy transfer, the 90% of the energy is lost as heat energy, which is transferred from from the producer to the consumers, that is the primary consumers. So finally, on an average, if we talk about, only 10% of the food energy is captured by the primary consumers, that energy which is transferred from the producers, as shown in the picture also here. When the primary consumers are eaten by the secondary consumers, then only the 10% of the food energy of the primary consumer, it is transferred to the secondary consumers. Thus, at each level of the food chain, as shown here also, only about 10% of the energy is passed on to the next level. This transfer of the 10% energy from one level to the next level, this is known as the Lindeman's law of 10%. This law of 10% law, it was given by Lindeman in the year 1942. As we know, since the amount of available energy, it goes on decreasing at each trophic level, therefore, the food chain exceeds up to 4th level or maximum to the 5th level. As shown here also, the greater number of organisms are at the lower trophic levels, as shown in this picture, and the greatest number is of the producers. As we can see here, the greatest number is there of the producers. Ecological pyramid. In an ecosystem, the structure and relationship in different trophic levels can be compared by studying the three parameters mainly, that is the number of individuals, biomass, or the energy at different trophic levels. This comparison can be represented graphically in form of a pyramid where the basal, middle and top tiers, they show the parameter values for the producers, herbivores and the carnivores. So, the graphic representation of ecological data in the terms of number of organisms, energy or biomass at each trophic level by a pyramider is termed as ecological pyramid. These are mainly of three types as shown here: pyramid of number, pyramid of energy and pyramid of biomass. So let's discuss these three types of pyramids one by one. The first is pyramid of number. A graph which represents the number of organisms at each trophic level appears like a pyramid, showing that the number of producers is maximum and it continues to decrease at subsequent trophic levels. This is known as pyramid of number. It shows the population size at each trophic level. These pyramid of numbers, they can be present in two patterns as shown in this picture, as in the pattern of upright position and in the pattern of the inverted position. The next type of pyramid is pyramid of biomass. Biomass means the total quantity or weight of organism in a given area or volume. So, pyramid of biomass is the representation of the total living biomass or organic matter which is present at different trophic levels in an ecosystem. Biomass is calculated as the mass of the living organisms is present at each trophic level in a given sample size. It can be represented as a dry weight in grams or calories per unit area. A bomb calorimeter is used to measure the biomass. In biomass pyramid, the producers are at the base, followed by the herbivores and then the carnivores at the top. This pyramid of biomass is also present in two patterns, as in the pattern of the upright position and in the inverted position. The next category is pyramid of energy. A graph which represents the availability of the food energy at different trophic levels in the form of a pyramid is termed as pyramid of energy. It shows that the energy is lost at each trophic level along a food chain. It is also present in the upright position only, as shown in this picture. These pyramid of energy, they are always present in the upright position. Each bar in the energy pyramid, it indicates the amount of energy which is present at each trophic level in a given time. Questions based on the topic of ecosystem. So here are some of the questions based on the material which is provided to you all about the ecosystem. So test yourself.